Hello, buddy. It is me, Game Penguin 21, and today. Okay, so what are we talking about? Well, I know that today, Thursday, was supposed to be the day that I dropped the new album, but that's probably not going to happen. Either it's going to be posted on my Thursday or Saturday, and I'm probably going to go with Thursday because this needs to be talked about. Mainly in the fact that the Battlefield 6 sort of beta and movement nerfs seems to have come out, and there is currently gameplay that is circling from a person by the name of Enders. Now, who is Enders? Well, Enders is someone that a lot of people seem to just be saying is a Battlefield tourist, and taking a look at his stuff, he's not really. He's just very dumb in his takes when it comes to a lot of these, well, things. How do I know this? Well, it's a pattern of recent behavior. Enders first came onto my radar when he said something dumb about needing, or that kills are more important than, well, actually playing the objective. I think I talked about this at some point, but I can't remember. But at one point, Enders basically said all of that. If I have the extra screenshots lying around, which I probably do, I'll throw them on up to the screen right now. He also had some things to say on the suppression stuff and had some other stuff like that. But, there is a number of things that Enders has that I think that we can all say he's a pretty arrogant guy, thinking that his opinions are correct because his opinions are correct, I guess. There's really no other justification for it. But even sometimes using his own logic of his opinions being correct, when you use his own opinion against himself to prove himself wrong for whatever reason, he still was going to backtrack and basically say, no, that's not going to be happening. So I think today we're going to be taking a look at his clip and some of his most recent crash outs on the Battlefield movement penalties that are currently going to be implemented. With all that being said, if you like what the is that I do, and also any other way, shape, or form other than like and subscribe, which is always enough, links and everything in the description below. I do stream every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST, sometimes a little bit later. Make sure you check here on the YouTubes and on the Twitch, and also check out the Twitch sometimes because I do stream there more for other types of streaming, not here on YouTube. But YouTube's here every Sunday. In any case, with that being said, let's get started. Of course, starting off with Enders and Battlefield 6 saying the Battlefield 6 movement nerfs in action, totally unwarranted, completely over nerfed. So I think this came together with a little bit of an attached clip here. Now we have a lot of things to get through, so we're going to actually kind of look at this clip that he ended up posting along with it. It's around 3 minutes, so we're just going to kind of blast through it a little bit. Then we're going to take a look at the replies. So let's take a look at this clip that he so generously provided to us.
I found a good clip that showcases the Battlefield 6 movement/penalty changes from the BF6 beta to whatever build they were invited to play. This is from the Equus channel. Full credit to him. I'm going to provide a crosshair overlay on the screen here for center screen reference so you understand just how severe some of these penalties actually are. The point of aim in Battlefield 6 is tied to your weapon's front sight post. What that means is all the sway and wobble you see actually does affect where your bullets are going. Now, he's going to run back here, and when he tries to jump peek here, you will see just how severe the penalty actually is for using any sort of aggressive movement. Look at this. He's missing down, now he's missing up within like 3 bullets. So even if he tried to kill someone there, he would have missed every single shot. Same here. This is just a little baby jump peek. This is just a little baby jump peek. And look at this. Oh my God. Holy shit. Like, I'm just going to be honest. The movement in Battlefield 6 was nowhere near good enough to warrant any sort of nerf that we are seeing in this footage.
Okay, so that was a lot of information to take on here, but very simply, he's just saying that there is a lot of things that having to do with the actual implementation of movement and how, relatively, the entirety of it seems to be over-nerfed for whatever reason. Now, of course, as you saw specifically in those clips themselves were slowed way the hell down and actually showed, like, in movements, as they were very slowed down, to actively not be really a problem. If you actually saw them in full motion, as in the actual original clip, they're fine. I don't see any problem with this. I mean, in some regards, I guess that they'd look a little weird, but that's not the game that we're playing here. The game that we're playing here is a little bit more realistic than certain other shooters in this context. Now, again, it depends on the shooter. I think I don't know if the finals does this specifically, where if you jump around and move, that you actually get things on the crosshair. I don't know. I'm not a movement expert on that, but that's the finals, and that's the only really point of reference that I can make, because that's the game that I've been playing a lot recently, as well as like Sulfur and other stuff. But the thing is, right, Battlefield is a more realistic and a more grounded game. So yeah, when you're jumping and moving and like maneuvering around specific corners in a quote-unquote aggressive Call of Duty style, which I'm going to basically name it as, you shouldn't expect to have a perfect aim the entire time. In fact, I think even in COD there is a slight movement non-benefit to actually, not making anything work here. It's, to me, the whole big thing and the whole big problem that I end up having with this is the sheer fact that this is kind of normal. I mean, again, yeah, saying that, oh, there were people abusing the movement and it was only a small subset of people and stuff. He'll get into a couple of these glitches and things in a bit. But overall, what you have to say here is kind of immaterial, as, well, this is in other Battlefield games and other places where, it's a more grounded and realistic type of shooting style. I mean, yeah, certainly you're going to see this in like milsim style stuff, but I'm not even talking about milsim style stuff here. I'm just talking about some other shooters in general. Like I don't know if it works in like Valorant or whatever, or a few other games, but this is not Valorant, this is not Call of Duty, this is Battlefield, sir. And mind you, this is the same person, by the way, who continuously says and has been quoted as saying that kills are the only thing that really matters in Battlefield and not Call of Duty. He said this not too many months ago, actually, if people have remembered that. Like, he seriously thinks that playing and getting good KD ratios in Battlefield is the most important thing. Saying, oh yeah, preventing the enemy from capturing the objective is the thing. And it's like, it's an obstacle, but at the same time, you don't need to do that the entirety of the game. Again, I can probably pull up a bunch of different clips here, but I'm not going to. Let's continue.
Is over-nerfed. No question about it. It was already quite difficult to implement aggressive movement in your gameplay in Battlefield 6. You had to time it correctly. There was a run-up period, right? And you can get caught while running up to try to perform a jump peek or to try to slide into a door frame, for instance. And I know a lot of people are going to celebrate these nerfs, but it is out of ignorance. They do not understand the negative effects this will have on gameplay.
Okay, well, let's look at it from the reverse side here. Saying that you could be caught on the run-up and caught while coming through a door is not true, because here's the thing. You can actually mitigate a lot of these things by simple game awareness and very simple putting an object between you and where you're jumping. One of the big things that a lot of people would do when they're jumping around and moving is they would jump through windows from behind solid cover. From behind solid cover, usually indicating things such as corner peeking or corner jump peeking or jump peeking in general from up top and places where enemies aren't necessarily looking at. You can see a lot of these sort of rage-baity clips, and one of the infamous ones being from Riley CS, where a lot of the enemies just seem to be completely fucking oblivious because of like the whole clip thing. But normally those crazy clips ended up having those types of things, where a person is already dead by the time that they could even possibly react to it. That's how this shit works, and that's how these people who get these clips end up doing it. They exploit the movement, and they exploit the fact that they are moving faster than the enemy can actually react, therefore getting the first few shots off, therefore you die. So while, yeah, in some regards you could say, oh, well, they're not, you could still be caught while doing this stuff. Yeah, it's the same thing with, like, camping, right? Where you have to understand and be aware where the enemy is at all times, which isn't actually possible, but by the time that you end up realizing where that enemy is and they're camping, you can't really do anything if you want to, succeed at doing it, because by the time you chase them down, you're taking away power from the team overall, especially when it comes down to things like this. And it's just usually one soldier. I mean, at the same time, you could make the same argument for, like, saying that the vehicles are a little bit overpowered, because, you need an engineer or someone who can deal with vehicles in that context to actually take the vehicles out. Overall, like, when you say that, oh, they're exploiting the movement and this will negatively impact it, it will only negatively impact the people who are, exploiting the movement in the first place. If not many people were using it in the first place, by the by, that means that overall, it won't be affecting really anyone, and it will only be affecting the few people who were exploiting the movement in the first place. So, by your own logic, it's not a negative, it's only a positive, because it is, fixing something that a person was complaining about, and also will only affect a small, almost minuscule number of people, as you have previously stated.
If you nerf a lot or all of the skill gap out of this movement system in a game with Battlefield 6's blisteringly fast time to kill, your gameplay will come to a complete and utter standstill. You won't see anything other than people...
No, it will not. That's not how movement works at the fucking all. Again, to use a couple of interesting examples here, Team Fortress 2 and the finals have very different, but albeit kind of similar movement systems. One is not better than the other, but again, to kind of, bring it into this context, we then have Battlefield and Call of Duty. One is a blisteringly fast TTK and has very exploitative movement that a lot of people have been complaining about for fucking years. Not only have people been complaining about it for fucking years at this point, having a game that is basically the same thing, just with a different coat of paint and made by a different developer who, might have some different mechanics in mind, is annoying and stupid. Here's the deal. I hate the fact that Call of Duty has become not repetitive, absolute garbage, and that's why I left Call of Duty a while back, because they lost me with Vanguard, they brought me back with 2019, but then they lost me again at Cold War, and I haven't looked back since. That's been a few years from now. I don't want Battlefield to be like Battlefield 2042. I don't want Battlefield to be like Call of Duty. I, as a person who likes video games in general, wants Battlefield to be its own damn thing with its own movement, priorities, and non-priorities. If you want a more high skill gap movement, quote unquote, go play Call of Duty if you really care.
Standing in cover on a head glitch, just waiting for somebody to walk into their crosshairs. And regardless of if anyone wants to admit it or not, that is simply not how some of the best Battlefield games ever created played. There were aggressive movement options in a lot of the best Battlefield games ever created, such as Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, that are way more aggressive and quicker than the ones we see in Battlefield 6.
X to doubt on that, but we continue.
Battlefield 4 had air strafing, jump peeking, crouch spamming. Battlefield 3 had weird vault tech you could use, Euro hipfire, jump peeking, and with both games, the sprint speed was significantly faster at a baseline. So in my opinion, the nerfs to Battlefield 6's movement system and some of the aim down sights penalties are completely unwarranted. Nothing about the Battlefield 6 beta's movement was overpowered in any way, shape, or form outside of bugs that should have been fixed anyway, but it's very important to separate bugged movement from the intended base game movement. The intended base game movement of Battlefield 6 in the beta was completely fine. It did take skill to implement and was not overpowered, as you really had to time it well, place it well, and make sure you basically were playing the game correctly in order to make it work for you.
Yeah, but correctly in what sense? Well, correctly in your sense might be, basically trying to implement the entirety of the schizophrenic movement and take all of the Adderall. That's not what everyone wants from a Battlefield game. And if you completely and utterly think that he is just kind of taking the piss here, here's a couple of responses from him in the comments here of the same tweet. It's unclear at this point if you can mitigate the sway with attachments. Also, the replies to this just expose how few people understand what you can do with movement in previous Battlefield games. Tour/career bipod analysts. The replies are just so sad, lol. One jump equals spamming like a bunny. One slide equals Apex. Where do these guys come from? We're not necessarily talking about those types of people. We're talking about people like you who complain about this and will continue to crouch spam, jump spam, and do all this other stuff. While yes, in some regards they can be good implementations in specific games, it really only requires it if those games are built around that movement. Battlefield is fucking not. Again, there is a ton of examples online of people exploiting and bugging out the movement in various games. It's a thing that happens. Physics is weird whenever you put it into a computer, because the computer is not real life. But at the same time, here's the deal. One jump is still jump peeking. One slide is still slide peeking. Both of these should not be exploitative, or both of these should not be relied upon in order to secure specific kills if you really so choose to. These can be options, absolutely, and I definitely think that if they were to implement, say, I don't know, some sort of attachment stuff to actually mitigate that things, I think that that is fine, because then that means that you have to rely on the standard log movement in order to actually mitigate a lot of this stuff. You'll see a lot of the things as I'm talking over this rant as well to actually show you some of the few other responses here, such as things like jumping like a weasel on crack, playing things like COD, etc. Get good and all the good stuff. But I think it kind of comes down to what Dog Piss here says. Good. It's good that they actually nerf the movement, and most of the people actually agree. Because like you said in your video, it seems to only affect the people who are, wanting to exploit that movement and the bugged movement for that context. If, say, the bugged movement itself was the actual movement of the gun not reacting to the person's jumping, then that is quote-unquote bugged movement. It also, again, depends, like I said, on the game. Taking the finals, like I continue to mention here, as an example, that game is heavily based on movement and actually requires, or actually has several different mechanics that revolve around movement, such as jump pads, zip lines, and other sorts of things. All of that, if you were to, say, have this Battlefield-esque movement of, like, trying to wave your gun around, it still will cause you to miss sometimes, but it's not as bad because it's more of an arcade shooter, or it's more of an arcade COD-like shooter rather than anything else. Battlefield shouldn't look to implement stuff like that, or stuff like how COD does it, where it's still not the greatest, but at the same time, there is a number of things to it. If majority of people are saying that this nerf is good, and that people should actually learn to, play Battlefield like Battlefield, unlike some people who continue to say that getting kills is more important than playing the goddamn objective on the fucking objective-based games, I don't know. I don't know who to trust. The thousands upon thousands of people basically saying, get good and stop complaining, you bitch-ass motherfucker, who basically doesn't know a thing about Battlefield, or the one dude who's complaining off of his soapbox to basically say, I like the breakneck speed of Call of Duty, but I want that in Battlefield. It's the same thing, and it's the same arrogance as Tim the Tatman had, where he says, let us have a Battlefield Battle Royale, because we need this. We deserve this. No, you fucking don't. You don't deserve a fucking inch of anything having to do with anything with the game. You want breakneck movement? Make your own damn game, or, at the very least, go and play a game that does cater to your movement needs and preferences. Just verbatim. That's how this shit works. Few other things here with Gaz saying that, with Gaz having a very more interesting, much more grounded thing here, saying it's Battlefield, man, not Apex Legends or COD. The focus is more on team play and working as units. Yeah, completely and utterly agree. I won't verify the guy for his disappointment. I won't vilify the guy for his disappointment, though. There is an inherent desire for movement-based stuff, which is why I think there is room for a great arena-based shooter. I mean, again, I keep bringing up the finals. You want breakneck movement? You want interesting arena-based, like, actual fucking good combat like COD, but don't want to play COD? Get the finals. The finals is free to play, and it has a lot of actually good and interesting movement tech that you can exploit to your heart's fucking content. It gets, worked on all the time, every week. Definitely good. Season 8's really good, by the way, so you should probably check it out. Personal recommendation. Shire Enjoyer saying, you may not understand what this guy is talking about, but the primary point here is when guys use terms like jump peak and aggressive movement are crying about their playstyle being over-nerfed, it means the game will be fun to play for normal people. Again, majority of the time, in his own fucking video, like he explained, only a small amount of people were actually, quote, exploiting the movement. So, if this thing was to get nerfed in order to actually do that, saying that it was over-nerfed, maybe you can bring that up there. If it was over-nerfed, they might tweak it back a little bit. Who knows? Who really fucking cares? You're not the person sitting at the computer writing the code or writing down the actual physics simulations for this. Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck cares? I don't, and you most certainly shouldn't either. In an interesting another response, he says a bug or not, he disagrees with the basic direction of the movement changes and simply don't need to be nerfed. Wasn't OP. Ah yes, because smoking an entire squad in Battlefield from just simply jumping out of a window, bouncing around like an actual bunny, and then not being able for the enemy to actively react to that in a substantial manner, yeah, most definitely. That is not exploiting the movement at all. It's the largest movement discourse happening over the beta during the most people are having fun and did not see the movement come up much. Again, if it doesn't come up much and it's actually being nerfed because a lot of people were complaining about it because there was enough happening to it, don't you think that maybe it's a good thing overall? If it's fucking up your playstyle, either adapt or get the fuck out. That's all I really have to say on that. And here's a few more little things where, LX Factor having a thing and practically burying this man, saying that movement players are kind of being dumb. Well, movement is now in shambles. Oh boy. Overall, I think that'll about do it for this episode of I Rant into a Microphone for a substantial amount of time. If you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, other than like and subscribe, which is always enough, links down to everything in the description below. My name is GamePenguin21. I stream here every Sunday at 12 p.m. EST. My new album should be coming out this week, hopefully Saturday, because I had to push this video out for my own, being able to cover this topic. And as always, links down to everything in the description below. Like I said before, I am very bad at outros. Anyways, a peace. Off.